Hello, welcome to Foster Recap. Today I am going to explain a thriller drama movie called Nightcrawler. Guys, small request from us. Over 99% seeing out videos without subscribing. It means small to you, but it is very encouraging for us, so please subscribe if you like our video. Love you guys. Movie starts in the beautiful city of LA, our main protagonist Lewis cutting a chain fencing near a factory area. Suddenly, a security guard notices him and asks for his ID for checking. He covers it up by saying he got lost. Lewis notices the security guard's beautiful watch and approaches him, attacking him and stealing his watch. Later, he went to a factory to try to sell the stolen product. However, the manager was aware of his intentions and offered him low money. Lewis agreed to the deal, but requested the manager to give him a job by giving a monologue about his work. But the manager refused and replied harshly, stating that he would not hire a thief like him. While driving home, Lewis noticed a car crash and immediately pulled over. As he approached the scene, he saw two policemen desperately trying to rescue a woman who was trapped in a burning car. A photojournalist soon arrived, eager to document the rescue effort. Lewis watched as the photojournalist quickly recorded the two officers pulling the woman from the wreck, and he was captivated by the thrill of capturing the moment on film. Curious, Lewis approached the photojournalist and asked for more information. The photojournalist, Joe Loader, informed Lewis that they sold their footage to local news stations who paid them well. Lewis was intrigued by this job opportunity and asked Joe if he could be hired. However, Joe refused, explaining that it was not an easy job and required specific skills and experience. Despite the rejection, Lewis was left with a newfound appreciation and opportunities to grow. Next day, Lewis was waiting at the park, then he spotted a stranger parked a bike. He stole it with the intention of selling it for $500, but the shopkeeper wouldn't agree to that price. So Lewis traded the bike for a camcorder and a police radio. At night, he began monitoring police communications and soon heard about a shooting. He drove to the scene but was not allowed to record. After two failed attempts, Lewis received news of a carjacking and quickly drove there. Joe arrived first, but Lewis managed to capture close-up footage of the victim covered in blood. The police cleared the area, and Lewis went to a news studio to sell the footage. Then he met news executive Nina Romina. She initially declined him, but after seeing the footage, she agreed to pay $250. She advised Lewis to invest in advanced equipment and told him the station was interested in footage of graphic accidents and violent crimes in affluent areas. Lewis went from a bicycle thief to a crime videographer in one day. Lewis was inspired the next day when he saw his video broadcast on TV. He made up his mind to become a freelance photojournalist and uploaded his video to his PC. He searched for police codes and learned them. Later, he decided to hire someone as an assistant. He conducted a normal interview at a coffee shop and hired a homeless and innocent man named Rick for a very low wage. Lewis then taught Rick how to understand police codes. After a long wait, they heard about a shootout and quickly headed to the location. However, Rick gave the wrong direction, resulting in a delay. By the time they arrived, the police had cleared everything. They received another lead about a shootout and went there, but unfortunately, the police had taken control. However, Lewis saw an opportunity. He broke into the victim's house while the police were investigating and recorded the inside footage and photos of the victim's broken windows and gun shorts. Nina impressed by Lewis' video and decides to buy it. She gave $500 to his video. Within a month, Lewis made a fortune from his shocking videos that focus on car accidents, carjackings, and shootouts. After a few months of success, Lewis was finally able to buy his dream car and live a lavish lifestyle. Meanwhile, Rick remained stuck in his small cottage with low wages, feeling a little disappointed. One day, when Lewis and Rick were having a conversation, they received a lead about a car accident. Lewis didn't waste a moment and rushed to the scene, eager to capture the footage. However, when he arrived at the accident site, he was disappointed to see that he couldn't find the right angle to record the incident. In a moment of desperation, Lewis dragged the heavily injured victim in front of a car and recorded the footage. When the police arrived, he replaced the body and left the scene, hoping that no one would notice. Joe, another videographer, saw Lewis arrive earlier than him and felt a twinge of jealousy. Despite the unethical nature of his actions, Lewis was determined to do whatever it takes to capture the footage that would make him even more money. As usual, Nina was impressed with Lewis's effort and she pressed him, handing over a check. To her surprise, Lewis then invited her to dinner. The next day, Joe came to Lewis and informed him that he was buying a new van. He offered Lewis a partnership, promising to cover half of the costs and even buy him an advanced camera. However, Lewis rudely rejected the offer, saying that he didn't want to work under Joe and stormed off. That evening, Lewis went to dinner with Nina, where he revealed his intentions of sleeping with her for mutual benefits. He threatened that he wouldn't sell his videos to her studio if she refused. The next day, Lewis and Rick quickly headed to the scene of a plane crash, only to arrive too late as the rescue team had already covered the wreckage. Joe, however, had beaten them there and teased Lewis for being late. At the studio, Nina asked about the plane crash footage, but Lewis regretfully informed her that he had failed to capture it. Nina exploded in frustration, shouting at Lewis for bringing footage of a car accident instead. She warned him that if he failed her again, she wouldn't be willing to buy any more footage from him. Feeling upset about the situation, Lewis took out his frustration by breaking the mirror in his bathroom. He then snuck into Joe's house, slipped under his van, and cut the brake wires, before making a quick escape. That night, Lewis and Rick heard about another accident and rushed to the scene. It turned out to be Joe's van, which had been involved in a crash. Rick advised Lewis not to record the scene, since Joe was one of them. But Lewis, driven by greed, disregarded Rick's advice, replying him he's for sale, and recorded the scene anyway. Joe was severely injured, but partially conscious. As he saw Lewis recording, he realized that Lewis was the cause of his situation, but he was helpless. After a week, Lewis and Rick received information about a shootout in a private residence near Granada Hills. Lewis arrived before the police and instructed Rick to wait outside. Sneaking into the house, he was surprised to find that the killers were still inside. Quickly hiding in nearby shrubs, Lewis recorded their faces and, after they left, entered the house and recorded everything, including the dead bodies. Curious, Rick also went inside, but Lewis stopped him and they quickly evacuated the scene. Lewis edited the footage before taking it to the studio, where Nina was thoroughly impressed. She called her assistant and arranged for the footage to be broadcasted, but Lewis demanded a large sum of money and that his company, Video Production News, be mentioned during the broadcast. Nina agreed, and the footage was aired. The news clip, including footage of the dead bodies, received a massive amount of attention and skyrocketed the channel's TRP ratings. The next day, Lewis monitored other news channels and found that no other channel had footage of the incident. Then, police detective Frontieri showed up at Lewis's apartment to question him about his connection to the home invasion. Lewis told him that he had seen two men leaving the house before he arrived and was unsure about their appearance. He gave Detective Frontieri the edited footage, cutting out the parts with. At night, Lewis went to Rick's to pick him up, where he confessed to having edited the video of the criminal's escape. In the process of editing, Lewis had discovered the number plate of the killers and was able to track down their address. Lewis offered Rick a salary hike and asked him to choose an amount he wanted. Despite initially wanting to ask for $100, Rick hesitated and ultimately chose $75 a day. When they arrived at the killer's hideout, Rick suggested informing the police, but Lewis had other plans. He wanted to film the arrest in a more public place for greater impact. Rick asked Lewis how much money he made for the video. Lewis informed him that he made $50,000. This news left Rick confused and he demanded half the money Lewis was going to make. In a threatening tone, Rick told Lewis that he would go to the police about Lewis's withholding of evidence. With no other choice, Lewis agreed but reminded Rick that they both must have equal risk in the video footage. Some time passed, and both criminals came out of hiding and started walking down the street. Lewis and Rick followed them until the criminals stopped at a Chinese restaurant. Lewis quickly called the police and informed them about the criminals, describing them in detail and letting them know that he was armed with the guns. Lewis then asked Rick to record another angle of the video from outside the car, but Rick initially declined. However, when Lewis reminded Rick about their equal share of the profits, Rick eventually agreed. The tension was high as the two criminals were inside the restaurant, and Lewis and Rick were ready to capture their actions on camera. After some time, the cops arrived at the restaurant, pretending to casually talk to the shopkeeper. Meanwhile, Lewis and Rick were recording the events from different angles. Another couple of officers soon joined them and the criminals became aware of their presence. The criminals started shooting at the police, and a gunfight ensued. During the exchange of gunfire, one of the criminals died while the other managed to escape in his SUV. Lewis and Rick quickly started pursuing the criminal in their car, with multiple police cars in hot pursuit. The chase was intense, with the criminal's SUV crashing into multiple police cars. When the SUV finally crashed, Lewis got out of the car and cautiously approached the wreckage. He reassured Rick that the criminal was dead and asked him to record a close-up video. However, Rick went near the SUV without noticing that the criminal was still alive and conscious. The criminal took his gun and shot Rick, causing him to collapse. The criminal then came out of the SUV and started firing at the police, leading to his death. Lewis recorded all of it and rushed over to Rick, who was partially conscious. Rick asked Lewis if he saw criminal is still alive or not, and Lewis replied,
"I can't jeopardize my company's success to retain an untrustworthy employee."
After recording the chaotic events, Lewis walked into the studio with a casual demeanor, interacting with everyone as if nothing had happened. He showed the footage to Nina and explained the risk he took and the loss he suffered. Nina consoled Lewis, and later police came there and asked the footage. Under Lewis' influence, Nina refused to give the footage to the police when they asked for it as evidence. She demanded a warrant, and the police ended up arresting Lewis for further investigation. However, after a month, Lewis was released without any charges. He took this as an opportunity to start a new chapter in his life and built a company called VPN Video Production News. He purchased several vans and hired employees, and his company quickly became successfully. The end. I can't jeopardize our channel's success to retain untrustworthy subscribers. Please subscribe guys, love you and thanks for watching.